Coram, good morning to you. Can you just flesh out the quarter for us then? How encouraging is this then in terms of the broader reopening for the year?
So good morning. It's nice to be back on. In terms of the quarter, we've had a robust start. It's been a good performance, back to growth, so up 2% on revenues, strong gross margin development, good cost control, and a strong EBITA margin of 4.2%, which is industry leading. So it's been an encouraging start. I think the thing I'd say though is that it is very dependent on the way in which the economies develop around the world, and that in turn is dependent on the way in which restrictions are lifted and the vaccination program gets underway in various countries. So, we're encouraged by where we're at, but there's still some degree of COVID-related and economic uncertainty.
Which business lines in particular are starting to reflect that pickup? Obviously, you're big in outplacement. You've got some important business lines around outplacement, as I mentioned. Just tell us where you see the strength coming through early.
Sure. I mean, the flexible placement business, which is the Adecco brand, is up 2%. So that's a big part of the recovery. Part of that is because obviously, it was impacted at the beginning of the crisis, but now it's starting to pick back up as the demand for flexible labour grows. But as you said, we've also got a couple of other business lines, career transition, which continues to grow, and we're starting to see a pickup in our permanent recruitment businesses as well. So, there are some encouraging signs about the way that growth is starting to come back.
Coram, really nice to see you this morning. North America, I think it was certainly in 2020 was about 17% of your business. I don't know what the figures are this year, but in the States, obviously, big number of jobs coming back, and we'll get more news on that at the tail end of the week as well. But I thought it was fascinating that 20% of the lowest paid workers, this is as of February, were still unemployed, compared with 6% of the highest paid as well. Is this a disproportionate recovery economically and in terms of jobs?
I think in terms of the way in which the recovery is coming back, it's very much driven across the world by restrictions and the way they get lifted. I think in terms of the US, what we're seeing is that the career transition business has been strong during the period of uncertainty. We're now starting to see a pickup in permanent recruitment, which is across the wage scale, and we're starting to see signs of recovery in the flexible labour market. So I think it's a bit more broad-based than you're suggesting, but clearly it's very dependent on the way in which the economy recovers, which in turn is about the way in which we emerge from the crisis.
Yeah, and those figures were out of the States, so obviously it could be different on a global basis as well. Coram, how far behind are we in Europe as well? We talked about this, Jeff and I, and you'd have probably been aware of the same facts 10 years ago, that we came out of the GFC so much slower in Europe, and we reformed our banks so much slower. Our vaccination process on this side of the Atlantic, by and large, is slower as well. The economic recovery and stats look much slower as well. Are we just destined to be slower on this side of the pond?
I think, we are seeing that where countries have been quick to vaccinate and where they've been quick to lift the restrictions, you see a stronger return to growth. That's clearly the case in certain parts of Asia, clearly the case in the US, and I think also in the UK, we're starting to see those green shoots come through as the programme gains momentum. In other parts of Europe, to be honest, the return to growth is a little bit more muted because those programmes are a little slower. I think, to be fair though, it's likely to be temporary. I think this is about the speed of recovery, and once those vaccination programs get traction, once they're really underway, I think you'll start to see a stronger return to growth in other parts of continental Europe. That's certainly what our figures suggest.